Hey there, Louis V here from Vinyl Latte, sharing with you some of my latest additions to my collection, and boy do I have a good one for you. We have several audiophile pressings today, and I'll be covering all types of genres, including rock, some contemporary, classical crossovers, and even a touch of calypso. So go fill up your cup of joe and get comfortable because we're about to dive right in. All right, so let's get started with one of my favorites here, and that's starting out with Mobile Fidelity's reissue of Hotel California by the Eagles. And if you haven't spun this one yet, it's truly something else. This edition is part of their Ultradisc One-Step series, which really means that they pulled out like all the stops to try to ensure that the listening experience here is just unparalleled to anything else. Now, what's fascinating about this album in particular is that it's already a bestseller. It has over 32 million copies sold. And even though this album has been pressed and reissued so many times, it can sound brand new again. And that's thanks to the clarity and the depth that this pressing brings to your stereo. For me, when I put this on my turntable, it was like hearing Hotel California for the first time all over again. The specifics on this one, they use 180 gram super vinyl. It is pressed across 2 LPs, they're 45 RPMs each. It's mastered by KW, and it is a limited release. It is capped at 17,500 copies. My one here is 9,956. Yeah, it's a limited release, a little bit high on the numbers, I will agree. And from what I understand, they went from the original analog master to DSD 256 and then back. And many knock MoFi's digital step, but the company states that the intention is to ensure that every detail is captured perfectly. Now, I noticed the reception among audiophiles is a bit mixed, and some praise its detailed, soundstage and dynamic range, while others find it a bit too bright or lacking some warmth. And I gotta say, my experience with the album, when I put it on, I can see that an overly bright system would be an issue. The hi-hat that really stands out on this particular pressing would drive you bonkers if you had a bright system. My system, I heard it, it was there, it was forefront in the sound, but it wasn't too bright. Therefore, I was still able to enjoy the album in its entirety. But it does go to show how subjective reviewing and listening and enjoying vinyl can be, right? The whole vinyl appreciation is very subjective, and sometimes I think we get too caught up in the details. It seems as if everyone wants new records to sound like the old ones, and I think we're missing the point. This pressing allows us to dive back into those iconic tracks, the ones like Hotel California, Life in the Fast Lane, A New Kid in Town, all with a fresh perspective. It's not just about revisiting a classic album, it's about experiencing it in a way that's both new and deeply familiar. Okay, next up, in continuing with this series, I also have added the One of These Nights by the Eagles as well. And if you remember the song Lion Eyes, well, that song snagged them a Grammy for Best Pop performance by a duo or group. And what else is fascinating is that this was the Eagles' first album to hit #1 on the Billboard chart. One of These Nights, Lion Eyes, and Take It to the Limit were the 3 singles that were released off of this one. And regarding this sound, it's like they've given this album a whole new breath of life. The level of detail in this pressing brings out is like being in a studio with the band. This edition is also pretty special. It's released under the same Ultradisc One-Step series that Mobile Fidelity is famous for. It's limited this time to just 10,000 copies, this one being 6,193, which kind of makes it, I think, a little bit more of a collector's item than Hotel California. This one as well is pressed across 2 LPs, 45 RPM, and the specs are very similar to Hotel California. It's mastered by KW, and it's pressed on that same super vinyl. Overall, not everyone's thrilled with the quality control in these releases. Some folks have complained about some warps or some split seams, which is a real bummer given the price tag. Still, if you get a good copy like I did, it's like hearing the Eagles in a way you've never heard them before. The warmth, the detail, it's all there. Speaking of which, let me ask you, what's your take on spending a bit extra for these editions? I've heard some say that once you have one of these pressings, right, and we're not just talking about MoFi, we're talking about MoFi, Impex, some of the one batch that Kraft is doing, UHQRs. When you have one of these pressings, you just cannot go back to listening to that album on a regular pressing. It's like after you experience this, you just can't go back. But others argue that the extra cost isn't worth that potential leap in audio quality. I'm kind of curious to know what you think. Are these audiophile pressings from all of these companies, MoFi, Analog Production, MX, and others, really worth the extra dough? Let me know. Drop your comments down below. Okay. Well, let's do a trio here, a hat trick, if you will. And this is the last in the series that I'm going to share with you. It's The Long Run by the Eagles. And this was the Eagles' 6th studio album. And it's particularly interesting because it showcases the band's, evolution with rich arrangements and deep introspective lyrics. And did you know it took them almost 2 years to complete this album? To me, that really speaks to the band's meticulous approach to songwriting and production. And several hits came out of this one, including I Can't Tell You Why, The Long Run, and of course, Heartache Tonight, which reached #1, by the way, on the singles chart and snagged them another Grammy. This is another limited to 10,000. This is 4,269. It's the same mastering and pressing as the other two, so nothing really new there. The sound on this one is outstanding, and I'll admit that MoFi doesn't always nail it. I have plenty of these, Ultradisc or super vinyl pressings that just have been underwhelming. But my experience with the Eagle series so far, they really met my expectations. They really have. Even my copy of On the Border, which is one I already had, sounds incredible. And there's really great consistency so far, which is something I cannot say about some of the Analog Production UHQR series that they did of Steely Dan. There's been some real letdowns on that one, especially after they did such a great job with Asia. Hopefully they'll get it right with Gaucho, which is likely already released by the time you watch this video. I'm really got high hopes on that one. Anyway, I believe I have 2 more to collect to finish out this series. And when I do, I'm thinking about creating a video, giving each one a quick review and stack ranking them with my favorite down to my least favorite. Let me know if that's something you would like to see by clicking that like button. All right, into the box here. Let's pull out the next one. We're out of the Eagle series and we're into Cosmo's Factory by Creedence Clearwater Revival, CCR, folks. This is one of those albums that just encapsulates a whole era. The album hit #1 on the Billboard 200 back in 1970 and is packed with those tracks that you just know, like Who'll Stop the Rain and Looking Out My Back Door. This version is from Analog Productions. It's remastered by Kevin Gray and Steve Hoffman. It was pressed at RTI, and I'll let you know that if you put this on, it will turn your head. This is not just another reissue, folks. The sound quality is crisp as it gets. They really nailed it out of the park on this one. And this one is where they really do justice to original recordings. It maintains that gritty CCR charm while bringing out all the dynamic range in a way that's hard to find elsewhere. It's like they've managed to capture the raw energy of the band on this album. And while, you know, original pressings have their own charm, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm a collector of OGs. There's something about this Analog Productions version that stands out. And maybe it's just a quieter background, the crisp bass and the mids, and just the overall feel of listening to a piece of history with such clarity. To me, it seems like Kevin Gray and Stephen Hoffman have really outdone themselves with this one, giving fans a chance to experience Cosmo's Factory in a whole new light. Okay. Shifting gears now, folks, to something a little bit more contemporary. Let's talk about Truth is a Beautiful Thing by London Grammar. This is an astropheric pop masterpiece that really took off, landing straight at #1 on the UK albums chart in 2017, I believe. There's key tracks here. Rooting for You showcases Hannah's incredible haunting vocals, and there's something about the way that this album has been pressed on vinyl that just amplifies the band's emotional depth and the expansive soundscapes that they're known for. This particular pressing, which is the 2017 UK pressing, really does the album justice. The vinyl, 3 times and we'll get it right. The vinyl is dead quiet and the sound is immersive. It's like one of those albums that just truly demands a dark, quiet room. And it's not about just the music. The vinyl format brings warmth and depth to the sound that you just don't get with digital formats, which is how I was most familiar with this album, by the way, before picking it up on vinyl. And it's like the record, having the vinyl, it just adds another layer to the songs on this album. They're already rich compositions. It just adds to it. And it's interesting to see how, you know, vinyl in general can just transform the way we experience music. Am I alone on that? Does anybody else feel that way? Even an album from, you know, just a few years back like this one can get a whole new life just pressed on vinyl. And I gotta tell you folks, I'm having a lot of fun finding records that I'm only familiar with in digital format, finding them pressed on a record. It's been interesting to see how like the sound differs from one media to the other. I'm really falling in love with some of my old tunes. That's one I probably would have never picked up, but now I'm interested in picking up more in their catalog. Shifting to the soulful depths of the South, we're gonna go up here with Homemade Ice Cream by Tony Joe White, and this album is a true testament to swamp rock. With hits like Rainy Night in Georgia and the deep grooves of Homemade Ice Cream and Taking the Midnight Train to the soulful storytelling of Backwoods Preacher Man. This is an album that immerses you in earthy rhythms and stories that only Tony Joe White could tell. The reissue here, folks, is by Analog Productions. It's remastered and pressed on hefty 200-gram vinyl across 2 LPs, 45 RPM, and it really brings out the raw, gritty essence of White's music. It's a sonic journey straight to the heart of Louisiana. This particular edition here, folks, was released in 2019, mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio from the original tapes, pressed at QRP, so you know it's high quality, folks. And I gotta tell you, it's one of the greatest sounding records in my entire collection. If you haven't picked this one up, you're truly, truly missing out. All right, here we go, folks. Lindsey Stirling's self-titled debut album. This one is a brilliant fusion of classical violin and electronic music, which is a combination that propelled Lindsey from her YouTube sensation to Billboard's Top 100 artist, which was honestly a significant achievement for a classical crossover artist, especially in the time. We're seeing more and more YouTubers make transition to real musicians, but back when this happened with Lindsey, that was a little bit more rare. The master behind this pressing is indeed they managed to capture Stirling's unique blend of genres perfectly. The dynamic range is open. It allows each element of her music to kind of like breathe. You got, from this deep, meaty bass lines all the way to the crisp, highs of her violin. It's just done the right way, folks. And this release is not only showcasing Stirling's fiery violin performance and electronic beats, but also brings out the clarity and depth of her music in a way that's truly just deeply immersive. As for this pressing itself, this one is the limited edition pressed on buttercream vinyl, and it's definitely worth grabbing if you see one of these. Really, really happy with it. Okay, let's get into another female artist, and let's talk about Madeleine's Peyroux, Careless Love. This was her third studio album, or I think third album. It's not a studio album because it's kind of a mix. It's got, a studio album and a live album. But this is the third album, which really has captivated the blend of jazz and blues and folk all in one album. And it really marked a significant milestone for Peyroux. I think on this one, she actually achieved gold status in multiple countries, platinum in the UK. The album features renditions of songs by Leonard Cohen. You got Bob Dylan covers on here, Hank Williams, and many others, all wrapped with Peyroux's intimate vocal style. And I believe all the songs on here are covers except for Don't Wait Too Long. I'm pretty sure she wrote that one or co-wrote that one. This pressing is the deluxe edition. It's spread across 3 LPs, reissued by Rounded Records and Kraft Records in 2021. And it not only revisits the original album, but also introduced previously unreleased live set from Spain's Festival de Jazz. I think that was back in maybe June or July of 2005, which is also, by the way, beautifully mastered, which I really love. A lot of times you get these live concerts and you can 100% tell they're live. There's a few that really nail it. The live disc here, awesome. Eva Cassidy's Nightbird album, especially the 45 RPM set, which spans across, 7 LPs. Amazing live set. But anyway, regarding the sound on this one, folks, it's a good example of what quality remastering can achieve. This pressing offers cleaner, more isolated vocal presence compared to the original pressing, really allowing Peyroux's voice to shine with clarity and warmth. And if you're familiar with her voice, that's what you want. This one is a keeper for sure. If you're into this, go ahead and pick it up. You won't be disappointed. Okay, let's take a trip down to the Caribbean with Tatoo Woman by the Mighty Sparrow. And if you're not familiar with the Mighty Sparrow, he is often hailed as the Calypso King of the world. And this claim was solidified through him winning multiple wins at Trinidad's Calypso Monarch competition. The album is vibrant celebration of Calypso music that really radiates the energy and the rhythm of the Caribbean. One of my favorites on here is the Big Bamboo. Steering Wheel is also another good one, and so is the title track. They're all worth giving a good listen. This particular one is the Japanese reissue. It's distributed by Disc Union. I think it's licensed by Railroad Town Music. It's all composed by Sparrow himself, along with some contributors and some other composers for some specific tracks. The pressing itself sounds really good. It's a reasonable soundstage, has good dynamics. I'm really happy with it. I don't think I have another need to find another pressing. This actually sounds pretty good here, folks, especially for being a Calypso album, because I gotta say, a lot of the Calypso albums, they tend to not have the biggest attention to detail to the recording and the mastering. This album, they've done a really good job. And I will tell you, we're wrapping down here, and I want to just take a moment to thank you. I want to thank you for watching this video so far. It really means a lot for you to stick in there, watch me show off the albums that I'm adding to my collection, and especially really appreciate the folks that interact and leave comments. I will ask, if you've made it this far, please be kind and hit the subscribe button. It really does make a difference, especially a channel like myself's where we're just trying to get off the ground. We're going to get kicked off on the last part of this with Ray LaMontagne, I think, folks. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's LaMontagne. And this is Gossip in a Grain. This one stands out as a testament to Ray's singer-songwriter ability. He's got a blend of soulful melodies and deep, heartfelt lyrics. And you may not actually be familiar with this artist. You may actually not even be familiar with this album. But chances are you've heard the widely adored track, You Are the Best Thing. And that track has found a special place in so many hearts. It's actually becoming a favorite selection for wedding songs. So it actually might have some tunes on here you already know. This pressing was released in 2008 by RCA. It was mastered at Sterling Sound and was pressed at United Record Pressing on double 180 gram vinyl. It has a gatefold. I'm really happy with it. Some of my La Montagne, whatever, albums have really been sort of a roulette wheel. I've started collecting him within the last 2 to 3 months. I stumbled across him accidentally. And I gotta say, some of the albums, they're mastered beautifully, but the pressing quality is horrible. And it's just, I really wish somebody would take him seriously and reissue his catalog on something that has the attention to detail, like a nice box set, or being pressed or reissued by an Analog Productions, or even whatever, right? Just something to just get a better quality record out of his. But honestly, this one sounds great. It has good dynamic range. It's got great clarity. In this record, if you're not familiar with it, this album demands, you know, kind of that just really quiet and intimate setting. It's just that type of music. It's that type of music. You just put this on, you turn the lights off, and Ray is just performing right in a room with you, taking you away with his raspy tenderness of his vocals, along with his intricate layers of, you know, guitar and organ and horns. It's just a beautiful experience. And, you know, it can easily get ruined if you have a bad pressing. So luckily that one shaped out. All right, let's talk about something new for a moment. That's new by Paul McCartney. This album is like an artistic tapestry that just skillfully weaves the timeless essence of the Beatles sound with a modern touch. It really demonstrates McCartney's undiminished flair for musical exploration. The collaboration with renowned producers like Mark Ronson imbues the album with this rich mix of vintage and contemporary textures, creating this vibrant sonic landscape, and includes notable songs such as New, Queenie Eye, and Early Days. It was reissued in 2018, mastered at Sterling Sound. It's pressed at Optimum Media, and this one also includes a printed lyric sheet and a printed intersleeve. It has good sound. It's got great dynamic range. It's got rich tones. It's very engaging. It's a solid keeper for me. I'm happy with the pressing. I don't plan on replacing it. It's a good grab. All right, we're down to the last album. Let's take it home today with Pornography by The Cure. This is The Cure's 4th studio album. It's their first album with their new producer at the time, Phil Thornalley, and in many ways this album feels like a sequel to 17 Seconds, and 17 Seconds was their second studio album, which really delivers this like auditory canvas just drenched in darkness and soul searching. It's just, The Cure was just a turning point for them. Released in 1982, it signifies this pivotal moment in a band's evolution. They started to delve into themes of despair and angst, the oppressive drone on, 100 Years, to the chilling narrative of The Hanging Garden. You also have the desolate beauty of Cold. All of these just offer this immersive listen experience that amplifies the album's haunting textures and deep bass lines. This is remastered, reissue, 180 gram vinyl, pressed at GZ, comes in a printed inner sleeve, and it sounds better than I expected. Let me tell you why I say that. I went through a show with getting Pornography. I have been searching for a very specific pressing of that album for a long time. I've ordered it 5 times on Discogs, and all 5 times I've received the wrong variant. And what's really interesting is that the variant that I'm looking for has a different back. So there's a unique mark on the back that you can clearly, you can clearly visualize that variant by just flipping it over and seeing if it has this stuff in where it's supposed to be. So it should be, in many ways, easy. It's not like, oh, I can't tell the matrix run out and everything looks the same. No, there's clear indication on the outside of the cover, yet even with that 5 times, I was received the wrong record. So on the 5th time, I got tired of sending them back. This one tended to have decent reviews. I think it was only a percentage or 2 under on Discogs from all the reviews, under what I was already seeking out. So I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm holding on to this one. It's not meant to be. And I was really surprised. This sounds great. We took a gamble with the GZ press and it paid off this time. Well, look, you made it this far, and I just want to say thank you for making it to the end. Let me know if you did, by the way, by hitting that like button. And until next time, I hope that your coffee is always warm and your records never skip. I'll see you soon.